Everybody please say yes.
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 No. I mean, if they ask you, it's being recorded.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Miss,
Should I make you co-host once you join? Yeah. Okay. Right.
Miss, do we have to like note anything?
No, you might want to. So just keep a paper and pencil ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Faride, mute yourself, darling. Hi, Faride. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Let you know if you've got the same flu, it carries on for a whole week more. My mom and I had a bit of a both of us had, and Nirmala's not doing too well.
Okay.
Anyway,
How
where
are
is
we sharing screens?
Do you have people in the waiting room? Nargis, Rohan and Lavya is asking.
yeah, long ago I've put him in. He's come.
Careful of the night.
Okay. Once Aisha joins in, I'll make her co-host. Where are you, darling? Can you say hi? I can see. Okay. Aisha's sitting next to me in case you can. No, sorry. She said, don't spotlight. I made you the co-host. Okay, right. She's sitting next to me so I can coordinate things because I've forgotten whether I can mark things when I share screen and stuff like that. Okay. So we can the part purses is okay. So now I'm not looking at it. Right. So today, darlings, what we are looking at is all of you have got your pieces. By now, to be honest, all of you should have learned everything. Prose, poem, and drama pieces for grade 4, 5, and 6 should have been learned. Okay. Besides the grade 3 also have their minds. So if they're set, you've got to start practicing it. All right. All these things need to be done, and they need to be done perfectly. Once they're learned, if you actually perform each thing, like, one day drama, the other day prose and poem, and you actually practice it, because before you actually do the exam, you should have done your prose and poem, like actually performed it about 40 to 45 times. That's the expectation of the examiners. That's how fluent and comfortable you need to be in the whole performance. Okay, darlings? So that needs to be done, and that's your responsibility, darlings. And I know all of you will do it. All of you are really smart. You're good at what you do. Let's see the difference. Okay, we have 1 month left. We'll be starting to record for the exams last week of September, first week of October. Basically, the whole of October will go in exams. Okay, and then we'll start our new year in the middle of November. So you'll then get a bit of a Diwali break, and then back to having fun then. Okay, this time the exam session has stayed nice and short. So I hope you all are all very happy. But then that means you've got to do well. Okay, because last year all of you did very well. But then we had up to December, we went on and on. So don't want to do that now. Okay, got it, darlings? Good. Okay. So I hope all of you are happy, ready to go for it and learn. For grade 3, this is the first time you all are doing technicals. Now, after you did the recording last year, a lot of you, so you know. Those of you who haven't done it, you just come and you say, good morning, I'm Nargis Dodhi, appearing for grade initial speech and drama. Namaste, do your poem, do your prose, whatever the order is, we'll tell you all that. Then you have, if you have sight reading from grade 3, 4, 5, 6, all of you have sight reading. Grade 4, 5, and 6 have the option of doing sight reading or 4, 5, 6 for 4 words and things like that. So if that's what you are interested in, talk to your teachers. You can do that. Okay. But you'll have that. And after that, you have what are known as the reflection questions. Now, in the reflection questions, there are 2 things you have to do. One is the technical aspects of your performance. So what are you actually how are you performing it? What are the techniques you are using? You need to be aware of that. And secondly, you need to know a little bit about your pieces, especially grade 4 onwards. You must do your research. You've got to know grade 5 authors' lives, the times. You should know the summary of your plays. You need to know the summary of your books, summary of your little pieces that you've done. You need to know the meanings of every word in your prose and poem. You need to know what the mood is, what type of piece is it, what style is it. And as you get older, you answer these with more sophistication and more information, depth of information. Grade 6, it's got to be depth of information. So if you're looking at modern Indian theater and you talk about that, you've got to bring in aspects of in modern Indian theater, which we had done in the first few classes, if you remember. So so when they say rehearsal process, you have to go back and remember everything we've done. How did we choose the pieces? That you were given, we gave you a book, you read it, you chose your prose pieces. All that needs to be brought into your answers. So I'm going to start with grade 3. Everybody mute yourselves, please. I will go through the reflection questions, grade 3, and the grade 3 technicals. Okay. Once that is done, grade 3, you can quickly ask me your questions. Grade 3 can then leave. And then we'll move on to grade 4. So let me go quick because we're already running behind time. Okay. Where are we? Right. I'm going to share screen. What am I doing? Share screen, share. Okay, a couple of things. Aisha, annotation.
I think I'm grade 3, so.
Yes, darling.
And Raja, hold on.
Everybody, how do I stop them from annotating? Okay, disable annotation. Did it happen?
Even miss as you do.
Yeah. Okay. But I can annotate. Right.
Tab. YouTube will open. Miss, I have a question. So, just to confirm, grade 6 has to stay from now till 4 o'clock, right?
Till 4 o'clock. Yes, darling, because we'll go through all the technicals. Okay,
Yes, yes.
Okay, darling. Right. Now, I've made a bit of a PPT, so life becomes a little easy. Okay. So where is slideshow from beginning? Okay. So this is technicals for grade 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're starting with grade 3. So have a look at this, darling. These are the questions you got. How do you feel your performances went? Be positive. Okay. And happy about it. What were you most pleased about? They don't particularly want to know what you were bad. Don't tell the examiner, I was not good at showing these expressions, things like that. In this, you talk about, I did the pausing here. I used my emphasis here. So the technicals you need to bring in here. If you're doing Journey to Joburg, you can talk about the fact that, I tried to understand what discrimination against blacks is, what was happening in South Africa. So bring in all the background that you do know into your questions and answers. Choose one of your pieces and talk about how the character or narrator's feelings changed. So the mood of your pieces, okay? Go through that. Choose one of your pieces and explain what makes the story or subject matter interesting to you. If your poem is funny and why it's funny, how did you show the humor? Again, you can use a little bit of technicals in that when you're talking, okay? Fourth question, describe the imaginary surroundings of one of your pieces. So, for example, if one of your books is Bird with the Golden Wings, and you talk about the story of Sukeshni and, she's in that village and it's all like there's this whole lake and it's beautiful and green, but there's this horrible demon in the lake that comes out. So you sort of imagine what the whole surrounding looks like. So you need to read your stories and put all that in, okay? What do you consider to be the funniest or most dramatic moment in your pieces? So choose 2 out of the 3 pieces to talk about. In grade 3, you only have the two, prose and poem. So look at the two pieces. What were the most dramatic ones? Okay. In your mind, what was the most dramatic thing? How did you show it? Talk about that. What did you use? Vocal and physical skills. So in mine, you say I didn't use vocal skills. My vocal skill was to keep quiet. But I used my space. I made sure I used the whole stage. I made sure I never turned my back to the audience. I used my expressions. I used all my gestures, my actions. So talk about that. How were your performances different from each other? So how was prose different from poem, different from mine? And again, in that, you've got to talk about how you've used pause and emphasis. That becomes very, very important. Now, how did you show that to your imagined audience? I wanted to show I was really nervous. So I said, I pause, I pause, I pause. So I used pause to show my nervousness. Okay. So there are all these different things that you need to sort of look at over here. Are you clear on that, darling? Now, out of this, you have to answer choose any 2 or 3 of the following questions. If I were you, I would choose 3 questions and keep them short. Okay, because the whole thing has to take 4 minutes. So about 1 minute, 10 seconds, 1 minute, 20 seconds, each answer, and do 3 answers. So choose these and show these to your teachers. Okay. Yeah, 1 minute, you can ask questions at the end. Is that all right? Is a question related to this? Okay. As soon as I finish grade 3, you can ask that. So now I'm going to the technicals. So, well, like I said, you can talk about the technicals in your in all these answers. So what are the 2 technical aspects you are looking at? What are the techniques you are looking at in grade 3? The first thing you are looking at is pause. Pause is what it means. Pause means to wait, to take a breath, to stop and then to start again. Okay. So pause means to wait and to take a break in the flow of speech. So if you're talking, talk. Now, what may happen is the wait may be short, the wait may be long, it may be even longer. So you'll be like, oh my God, long wait, right? And then she said, books and boxes and pencils and rubber. So they're very, very short pauses, like the commas. So depending on, what kind of pause it is, why are you pausing? You have to think, darlings, now. Don't just do it, okay? You have to think about, why you're pausing and then decide whether it's going to be long or short. Then, why do we pause? So then when you're giving the answers to your questions, tell them that I paused because it helped me to breathe correctly. If you don't pause, you won't be able to breathe and you'll talk and go, right? Some of you may even faint. So to keep breathing correctly, to keep the reading fluent, to be smooth so that it's not jerky, it makes the meaning clear. It marks out the phrases so that you can make sense. Okay, the meaning stays clear because the phrasing is correct. If I say, I went to school yesterday for the big box of chocolates of Rita and Vandana. It makes no sense because I didn't pause properly. So you have to pause at the right places. It's not just pausing, but it's pausing at the right places. So if you look over here, okay, it marks the phrases. Okay, have you got it? Now, it also gives you time to make eye contact when you're doing sight reading. So when you go, once upon a time, there was a little princess who lived in a faraway country. She was very, very strong. So you look up and make eye contact. That becomes very important. Sorry, if you look at that. My markings on all this is not always very good. Okay, how do I undo it? Sorry, Control Z, right? Yeah. Okay, now, have you all understood why we pause? And obviously, If you don't pause, none of this will happen. What will go wrong? So in my poem, sometimes I used to go fast and I was not clear. Then I learned, I paused and I was clear. You can explain it like that. You can explain the improvements you've made in your answers. That becomes very important. Now, there are different types of pauses, okay? First, we're going to talk about these pauses. The pauses that are used in poetry and prose, okay? Anything, you use these pauses. There's grammatical pause, because when there are punctuation marks, commas, full stops, exclamation points, you must stop. The minute there is a punctuation mark, you must stop. Okay, those are grammatical pauses. If there are brackets, so you can see over here, we've got brackets right here, over here, over here, you pause, right? Rhetorical, to make sense, and emotional. So you saw before I said to make sense, I paused before and after. So when you have brackets, you have to pause, okay? Rhetorical pause is when you pause to make sense. The pause that you use for phrasing, to make the correct phrases, those are rhetorical pauses, okay? And finally, the emotional pause. The emotional pause is to show, I miss my mother so much. To show how much how much I miss my mother, I pause. That's an emotional pause, okay? So I'm going to show you, if we go, let's do a little bit of an example. 1 minute. How do I go to the next slide? Sorry. Okay. Okay. So if you look at this is a prose piece from grade 3. So how are you going to mark the pauses here? A young woman, over here, a young woman, pause, put out her hand, pause, to bring them onto the pavement, pause. You must be strangers here, pause. Now, if you may change it and you go, you must be strangers here if you don't know. Does that make sense? So you have to be very careful. You've got to be, you must be strangers here. If you don't know about the buses, this stop has a white sign, pause. See, there's a comma over here. So you have to pause. But we have to wait, pause, by the black one, pause, over there, pause. End of sentence, pause, right? Over here, full stop. Now, there are some places you'll pause longer. A young woman put out her hand. So this was if you look carefully, this was a short pause. This was a longer pause, okay? A young woman put out her hand to bring them onto the pavement. Actually, even after them, there's a slight pause, okay? So you can see the length of the pause changes, the place. There are some places where there are punctuation marks. So these are grammatical pauses. This would be a grammatical pause. This is a rhetorical pause. Put out her hand is a little bit of an emotional pause because she's being emotional about this, right? So you have all these different pauses like that. Got it? If there was a bracket and it said the young woman, and if this was in brackets, this would be a parenthetical pause because the brackets would be here. Got it, children? These are the different examples. You must mark this in every one of your pieces, every single pause, and try and think of why you're pausing over there. Okay, because then the explanation and the answers will be good. Once you do that, write the answers so your teachers can look at it. Give these examples in your answers. Okay, now, can I delete all, clear all my drawings? Okay, thanks, Aisha. So now I'm going to go, sorry, mouse, look at the poem. Let me just move this thing here. If you look at this poem, Aunt Tabitha, one of my students is doing this. If you look at this poem, you also have the same pauses in the poem. So, for example, whatever I do, where's my annotation here? Sorry, sorry here. Whatever I do, there's a comma. So automatically you pause. Whatever I say, pause. Okay. Now we are going to. So there are some pauses that are like this. There's grammatical pause over here. Okay, there will be parenthetical pauses over here. Can you see that? Because that's in brackets. Then, dear aunt, this is a grammatical pause and an emotional pause. Dear aunt, okay, exclamation like, oh, really? So this is both. One pause can be of two types. It's grammatical and emotional. Okay, got it, darlings? Now, in poetry, you've got the grammatical pause, you've got the parenthetical pause, you've got the rhetorical pause, you've got the emotional pauses, okay? These pauses are there in everything, prose, poetry, everything. But you have 3 more pauses that you get for, that you get in poems, okay? So those pauses are called suspensory pause, caesarial pause, and isochromous pause. If you look over here, okay? And I've drawn a little picture over here to explain it. I'll do it on the poem again to show you. Suspend at the end of every line an end of line pause. I forgot that, most important. At the end of every line of poetry, there is a pause. Now, this is what makes a poem different from a prose piece. In a prose piece, you just write dub, 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 dub. Like, can you see over here? This is prose, right? You just write like that. You don't stop. There's no end of line. But in poems, you got lines. Baba, black sheep, line. Have you any wool? Line. Yes, sir, line. 3 bags full, line. So in poems, you've got lines. That's what makes poetry. So at the end of every line of poetry, you'll see over here, we mark little pauses. These are end of line pauses, okay? At the end of every line of poetry. But sometimes we pause in the middle of a line, and that pause which comes into the middle of the line of poetry is called a caesarial pause. What is it called? A caesarial pause. Okay? So end of line pauses and middle of the line pauses. Okay? Those are the 2 types of pauses you've got there. End of line pauses and caesarial pauses. Poems also have paragraphs, which we call stanzas or verses. Okay, you all know that. You'll all, I mean, especially my 6th graders. I hope by now you know all this, and this is just good revision for you. So between the verses, you have a slightly longer pause. It's almost like you draw 2 lines here. This longer pause is called a isochromous pause. Everybody say it 3 times, even if you're on mute, just say isochromous pause, isochromous pause, isochromous pause, isochromous pause, okay? That is a pause that comes between the line, between the stanzas in a poem, between the verses of a poem. Then there is another kind of pause, and it's a very fancy pause, okay? It's called a suspensory pause. Have any of you been suspended from school ever? Nah. Because if you're suspended from school means you're stopped from coming to school for a few days, then you can come a few days later, right? So in poetry, if you suspend a pause and then you do it later, it's called a suspensory pause. But how do you know if you've suspended a pause? Remember I told you at the end of every line of poetry, there is a pause, end of line pause, right? So if you have a pause at the end of the line, it's a line end pause. But supposing the meaning needs to continue into the next line, it doesn't make sense to stop at that line. So then you have what is called a suspensory pause. So supposing you don't need to stop. So see, I put a cross over here. You don't need to stop at this line. So you don't stop. You suspend the pause. You make your voice go up a little bit, and then you continue without pausing. You go into the next line. You don't wait. You don't pause. Your voice just goes up, and then you continue into the next line. Okay? So when you don't pause at the end of the line, it is called a suspensory pause. So for instance, if you look at this, the suspensory pause occurs in the speaking of verse when the sense flows from one line to the next. The voice is sustained with a slight upward inflection to mark the end of the line, but continues into the next line to preserve the sense. This running over the line is called enjambment. So in suspensory pause, you have an enjambment. You have a running over the line. Okay? You go from one line into the next line. That is called an enjambment. Now, darlings, if you haven't understood everything, it's okay. Today is the first explanation for your class. So those of you starting on Monday itself, all the pauses in your prose and poems must be marked. If you have any doubts, your teachers will show it to you, correct it to you. Automatically, as you're doing it, you will understand it. Okay? If you don't do it, you won't understand it. So please do that. Now, 1 minute, Anaya, I'll get to you. Okay? I quickly want to go to a sample in the poems. Sorry, in the, what do you say, in the poetry. Here. So whatever I do, whatever I do, caesarial pause. Whatever I say, end of line pause. Aunt Tabitha tells me that isn't the way, end of line pause. When she was a girl, caesarial pause and suspensory pause. 40 summers ago, caesarial pause, end of line pause and parenthetical pause. Aunt Tabitha tells me, pause, they never did so. Okay? Now, if you look at later lines here, I'll ask my papa how he dared to propose. So you say, I'll ask my papa how he dared to propose to my darling mama. This is a suspensory pause. You don't pause over here. Okay? And you go on to the next line. So if you look at this, how shockingly sad that we girls, of today, again, you don't pause over here. So this becomes a suspensory pause. So see in your poems if there are any suspensory pauses. But if you have a punctuation mark at the end of every line, then that's a line end pause. There are no suspensory pauses. Okay? Got it? So these are all the pauses that you got. Now, there's another thing that you have to do. This page, we've sent all the technicals to you. You've got all this. This page just explains everything I've explained properly. Read it carefully. If you don't quite follow it, it's okay. This page needs to be kind of learned. You should be able to talk about all this, okay? And as you go into the higher classes, you really shouldn't. Pause means to take a break in the flow of speech. It occurs between phrases and at the end of sentences. It is used to breathe correctly, read fluently, keep the meaning clear, mark the phrases, mark the emphasis, and to give you time to make eye contact with the audience. The length of pause may differ depending on what you're trying to say. There are different types of pauses: grammatical, parenthetical, rhetorical, emotional. The different pauses only in poetry are line and pause, suspensory pause, caesarial pause, isochromous pause. You have to be able to say it like that. Ratta maro, this whole thing like that. Teachers make them repeat it 100 times in class and they'll get it. Okay, I hope my older lot, grade 4 onwards, should really know this because we've done this. Okay, now if you look at emphasis, emphasis is when you have to give importance to any word or phrase or a part of a word. A part of a word is called a syllable. What happened, Anaya? Okay, sorry. I'll pause after emphasis. I'll pause and everyone can ask me questions because this is for grade 3. Okay, so just wait. If there's anything urgent, darlings, put it in the chat. Aisha will have a look at it. Now, emphasis. First, let me tell you the syllables. Every word has a part. So if you look at my name, Nergis, Nergis, 2 syllables. Pencil, 2 syllables. Take your own name. Mabel, Tamish, Sangeeta. She's got 3 syllables, right? Okay. You have a word like catastrophe. You have catastrophe, 4 syllables. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, 14 syllables. That's the largest word that we've got. Actually, it isn't anymore, but it is one of the largest words in the English dictionary. So when you divide the word into separate sounds, it's called a syllable. Okay? In the English language, when you have a word, some part of the word can get more importance than the other. And if you make the wrong part important, so for instance, very common mistakes we make when we are speaking, and we say comfort. She came and gave me comfort. No, it's not comfort. It's comfort. Emphasis is on come. Opportunity, not opportunity. Opportunity. If you emphasize the wrong part of the word, you are mispronouncing a word in English. Okay, it's very, very important in English to emphasize the right part or the right syllable in the word. If you look in a dictionary, the important part of a syllable is always marked. Either it's bold, it's underlined, or there's an acute near it. Okay, look it up in a dictionary, you'll see that. There are certain parts of a certain syllable that is always more important than the other. That is the emphasized part of the word. Okay, that's in spoken English, which becomes very, very important. But you also have emphasis of certain words and certain phrases when you are doing your elocution. When you're speaking and presenting or performing and doing your drama, there are certain things you make more important. Why? Because you want the audience to hear that more importantly than anything else. It's got to be absolutely clear to them. It was an old man. It was an old man, not a woman. It was an old man. So for instance, I think Panaya was doing some work somewhere and she suddenly remembered this and she sent it to me. I was so happy because she's sort of understanding and using this in her daily work. She actually is applying this to her life. I want all of you to do that. Start using this. It really makes a world of difference. So you emphasize, you make it important, you give it stress, you make it significant, and you give it emphasis, okay? Because you think that that is the important part. Now, there are different ways in which you can make it significant. Every time you make it significant, you can't put force. Others, it'll be like, I think this is important because then I was sad. Would that sound sad? No. So there are different ways. So if you want to say, that was so sad. I made my voice softer. I made the word longer. So there are different ways in which you can give the emphasis. If you look at this, okay? These are all the different ways in which you can make it different. You can have change in pitch, up, down. You can go fast. You can be like, and then the lady came in and there was a little boy with a balloon, but the balloon flew away. So when you go fast, you've drawn the audience's attention. You made it important. Or you can go slow. Or you can put power into the word. Or you can make it loud. Or you can make it really soft. I was walking into the woods one night. And there, in the darkness. So I emphasize that whole sentence by making it really soft. Change your tone, deep voice. You draw the audience's attention to the fact that here is a big, big child stomping into the room. So make your voice deep, make it high, make it like a fairy. So when you change your tone, you are giving emphasis. You can pause to give emphasis. I was thinking, okay, I was not speaking, I was thinking. So you give emphasis by pausing. Inflection, movement of your voice. Intensity, power is force, intensity is depth and more feeling. Okay, so there's a difference between intensity and power. All these explanations are given over here. You can use action and say, hey, come here, or stop. Gestures. You can also have certain facial expressions. Like one of my old students, Sanaya, she has a very expressive face and she'll be like, really? Okay, so you have that coming in. You use your expression subtly. And she told me I was beautiful. Okay, so then you sort of use your facial expressions. So these are the different ways. So again, in your prose, poems, drama pieces, mark out where you're going to give emphasis and what technique you're using to give the emphasis and why are you giving the emphasis there. All three things need to be understood. Where you're giving the emphasis, why are you giving the emphasis there, and how are you giving the emphasis? What technique are you using to give the emphasis? Think about it. Is that the right way of doing it? Okay, darlings? Now, when you are answering the questions, please make absolutely sure that you apply it to your pieces, use these techniques, apply it to your pieces, and understand it. Okay? Has everybody understood, at least got an idea of what I'm saying? If anyone has questions, please put your hands up. Okay. Anybody? Yes, Rhea, darling. I'll ask you one at a time. Put your hands up so we can see the raised hands.
Yes, so ma'am, for one of the questions it asked to describe the background of your piece. But if your piece doesn't really describe a background, but the story from where my piece has been chosen from has one. So can I say the stories?
Of course. And you can then apply it to your piece and say, that's why I did my piece like that. See, at the end of it, whatever you understand and analyze has to apply to how you performed it. So the story of Little Settu is set in a jungle, a magical jungle. It may not be mentioned in your piece, but obviously that's in the story. It's sort of, mentioned there. So you can say, and therefore to give that effect, I did that in a very eerie voice. I brought that feeling in. Okay? Got it, darling? So you do it like...
And if you ever see, I can do, in this part, I did an emphasis. But we can only say that in the answers to our questions, right? We can't say that.
But in class, while we are discussing it, do everything. Darlings, we are not just learning this for exams. We are learning this so that we become better speakers, presenters, understanders of human nature. You are learning to become overall good, human beings. So therefore, you need to be able to understand the whole concept. And today, it's just an introduction, darling. But we don't have a lot of time. We have less than a month. So by this week, I want all technicals learned and done. By this week, students, please understand all technicals must be learned and done. Okay, so that you can then answer it in your questions. Yes, Anaya. Rhea, are you done, darling?
One last question. You said
Yes,
that
darling.
we can choose the 2 to 3 questions, but over there it
Yes.
says caretaker has to. Or the
No,
teacher.
that's because, because the third graders may be young, but none of my third graders across the board for every teacher, no student of nerds is not smart enough to read their own questions. You will have a little card like this. You can take a piece of paper, little sized like this, write the question here, write some points for the answers. You can't write the whole answer. And then write the second question, and then write the third question. You got it in your hand, you read the question. I don't think the caretaker needs to do that. I think all of you can do it. In fact, I think most of my initial graders and first graders did that last year, right? Do you remember? Rhea, you did it yourself last year.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm in second.
so I don't think in the third grade we need a caretaker. All right, it's allowed, but it's you who does it. All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, Sarah's laughing at my poor caretakers, huh? All of you just watch. I'll come to class and hammer all of you. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Anaya, darling, you've been waiting patiently. Tell me.
I didn't understand. Oh, okay. Actually, I guess I understood what it was. I forgot my question.
It's okay, darling. In case, darlings, you won't understand everything. I'm so glad Anaya mentioned that. You won't understand everything right now. I've just said it and sent through the pieces. Read those papers 2-3 times. Look in your pieces. Where does it apply? When you come to class, harass your teachers. It's your teacher's job to be harassed by you not understanding things. But only by that, not by coming late for extra practice. Then we don't like it. Okay, so please go through it. Ask as many questions as possible in class. Have you all got it, darlings? Really, really ask the questions. And you'll really understand it. And then you can try and give examples of how you're going to give it in the answers to the reflection questions. Okay? Have you all got it, darlings? Yeah? I think the teachers have all shared your grades reflection questions and your grades technicals with you. Okay. So at this stage, grade 3 is done. Ridan, yes, darling?
Miss, I was just asking if he could leave.
Where is Ridan? Ridan, you'll have to sort of talk about in-com skills when you sort of do, when you give a presentation and you've talked about your speech and how you pause between maybe sort of a slight change in the slide, or you want the examiner to think about something and you make it emotional and talk about these poor little children. So the examiner wants to know that you've actually thought about
when we say like a technical thing, we have to relate it to the task that we've done.
You've done, that's right, to your TV scripts and your presentations.
Basically, pause and emphasis.
Pause, phrase, emphasis, pace. All these technicals.
So how we've used it in our previous tasks like that.
That's right. You've already done it in grade 3 and 4. You can stay on for grade 5 because you'll get a better idea on, how we use other techniques also that you can then bring up if you want. Okay? Got it, darling? Okay. Anybody else? All set. Kyra, do you have a question, darling? Kyra?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, darlings. Right. So we are just a little bit over time. So quickly, grade 3. Namaste and thank you, darlings. I'm so glad you all came. It was just nice seeing all of you again. Okay, take care. Bye, darlings.
Namaste,
Bye, Tiana. Bye, Sarah. Bye.
Thank you, miss.
Bye.
Thank you, miss.
Kana,
Thank you,
all of you
miss.
wait. Grade 4, wait. Okay. Namaste and thank you, grade 3. Okay, so let's get on to grade 4 now. So grade 4, you need to bring in pause and emphasis. Grade 5 and 6, you need to bring, please understand, pause and emphasis are the bedrock, is the complete foundation of good verbal delivery in any format. Even when you're asking your teachers questions in school, these become vitally important. So pause and emphasis has to be understood and used right up to your ATCL levels. Sonali and everyone else doing their ATCLs. Okay? And Aisha Miss for her LTCL. You all know Aisha Miss is doing her LTCL. All becoming very smart, these teachers. So you need to use these right up to that point. The point is, again, I repeat, sixth graders especially, I need a little bit more maturity in your understanding and talking about this. Okay, you cannot say, I marked a pause here and it was a long pause and it was a short pause. Just talk about the whole mood of this, and I needed to give this sort of emphasis. So I elongated the pause over here to give a break between these sentences. So give a little bit more depth in your response when you're doing it for grade 5 and 6. Okay. Now, grade 4, pause, emphasis. The next two you have a phrase and pace. It'll go very, very easily. I'm going to share screen again. Now,
Miss, grade
Yes.
4 is comm skills.
No, darling, I'm talking about grade 4 speech and drama. This is all speech and drama, really. We don't need comm skills people too much here. Okay? But if you are there, it's good for you to learn. Okay. Now, if you look at grade 4, we've sent you another set of technicals. It's joined with the grade 3, phrase. Phrase is closely related to pause. Like I said, when you pause to make sense, that is phrasing. So what is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words that you put together that make some sense, but not complete sense. Okay? Therefore, pause. A phrase is a brief expression, pause, sometimes a single word, but usually 2 or more words, forming an expression by themselves. Now, if you do this, forming an expression by themselves or by being a portion of a sentence. So you've marked the different phrases, okay? A phrase is a brief expression. It makes sense, but it doesn't make complete sense, okay? So a phrase is a joining together, a linking together of words by their meaning. It makes sense, but not complete sense. And it can have one word or it can have many words, all right? And the phrase is marked by a pause. Now, since phrasing is so similar to pausing, the uses of a phrase are more or less the same as the uses of a pause. To breathe correctly, read fluently, keep the meaning clear, except to give emphasis. It is used for everything, okay? To keep the meaning clear, and also to keep the relationship between a phrase and a sentence clear. So one or more phrases can make up a sentence. The girl sat down is one phrase, one sentence. Okay? So you can have sentences with one phrase, or the girl sat down on the red bench. 2 phrases, 1 sentence. What happens if you don't phrase correctly? If you phrase incorrectly, you said, the red dress phrase, said the girl phrase is what I want phrase. But if you change it and you say, the red dress said phrase, the girl is what I want phrase, the whole meaning changes. Over here, the girl said the red dress is what I want. In the second, the red dress said the girl is what I want. It's the same sentence, but if you pause differently, the whole meaning changes. And that is very, very, very important to pay attention to, especially when you're doing your sight reading tasks. Now, luckily for you, when we are doing the recording, we always get it at least 1 day early. Very likely, when you print out your sight reading paper, mark your pauses. When you do that, it'll also give you time to look up. In written English, we use clauses and phrases. But in spoken word, we are guided by the context of what we are uttering. We express understandable units of meaning as one flow of sound. The pause marks the next phrase. So we basically speak in phrases or groups of words that make some sense. This makes the speaking effective. Okay. Now, also another thing that's important is when you say the words in a phrase, once upon a time, you don't say once upon a time. A little girl in a red hood. You don't do that. You go once upon a time. A little girl in a red hood. You say the set of words as if they are one word. So very often in a phrase, you just put the words together and you actually enunciate and say them as if it is one word. Have you all got it, darlings?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you're clear on that. Grade 4. Now we'll go on to, where's it got? Mouse. We'll go on to the next one, which is, we'll go to pace. What is pace? Pace is speed, right? That's what pace means. Pace is another word for speed. So what is speed? Speed is how fast you go in a certain amount of time. So if your car goes 2 meters in 1 hour, then that's the speed it's moving at. So the speed at which we speak is called your pace. Okay. Pace is the rate or the speed at which we speak. So how many syllables or how many words are you saying in 1 minute? Or what sound? How many sounds are you making in 1 minute? The more syllables you put in, the faster your pace. The fewer syllables you put in, the slower your pace. You don't really need to actually learn this. It's just for those who understand science and like to think scientifically, this is one way of looking at it. Okay. A suitable pace is achieved when you are slow enough to be clear and understood, but fast enough to be interesting. So you have to decide how fast or slow you are going. Got it, darlings? Okay. So you go fast or slow depending on what you're saying, the idea that you are expressing. Okay. Whether it is, if it's excitement, you'll go really fast. But if you're a little scared, you might go a little slow. So depending on the idea that you're expressing or the character, an older person will go a little slower automatically. But a person who's young and hyper and things like that will go faster. But it must never, never, never go so fast that you are not clear. So even if you want to say something fast, the pace is determined by the emotions and the ideas being expressed. It is also defined by the background of the character. For example, age, location, etc. It plays an important role. So you go fast, but say everything clearly. Your vowel sounds and consonant sounds must be very clear. So in pace, one of the things that you could go haywire with is losing clarity. So be very, very careful that you increase your pace without losing your clarity. But then you don't want to be so slow all the time that the person sitting in front is bored. Okay? You need to sort of have a well-balanced pace. Now, you may have overall, in a happy piece, the pace may be faster. You're doing a soft, sweet poem, the pace may overall be slower. So you can have an overall pace of going fast and slow, depending on what the mood is, what the feelings are, what the idea of the genre of the piece is. But if in between the piece that there is a little change, it doesn't have to be standardized. You change it a little within the piece. So let's have a look at, again, another example. Let's look at grade 4 poem, Jack and the Beanstalk. Okay. So you've got here, Jack was nimble, Jack was keen. So first of all, for your phrasing, you'd have Jack was nimble, Jack was keen, he scrambled up the mighty beam. Up he went without a stop. But just as he was near the top, a ghastly. Now, this is not really a phrase. This is more just like a pause as a comma. Okay, a ghastly, frightening thing occurred. Not far above his head, he heard. Okay, these are your phrases. So you mark your pauses and your phrases. Okay, then let's look at the pace at which you speak. Jack was nimble, Jack was keen. He scrambled up the mighty beam. Up he went without a stop. And just as he was near the top. So the climax is coming. So overall, this is a fast poem because it's exciting. It's adventurous. You've got all these characters coming in. So you automatically go fast with this, okay, in the overall poem. But certainly in this line, but just as he was near the top, you go slower. Okay, so you change your pace. So overall, you decide what your pace is, and then in each part, go faster here, slower here, medium here. Keep that in mind. Analyze the pace of your pieces. Okay, darlings? Have you got it, grade 4?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for grade 4? I mean, anyone can ask the questions, but pertaining to grade 3 and 4 technicals.
No, miss.
Anna, have you understood grade 3 and 4, darling? Viva?
Yes, miss.
Okay.
You should grade 4 leave.
If you all have completely understood everything, please again mark everything, go through it, go through your, oh, 1 minute, wait, grade 4, 1 minute. I just quickly want to go through your reflection questions. I didn't do that. They are more or less the same as grade 3. Where did it go? Here, sorry. They're more or less the same as grade 3, but they've changed it just a little bit. What did you consider to be the funniest or most dramatic moment? Same, describe imaginary surroundings, choose one of your pieces, and how the character, try and do this. Like in the beginning, the character was like this. I used pause and emphasis, and I used different voices and the gestures to show all this at the beginning. And then the character became angry. So I scrunched up my face. I used more force and things like that. That's a very good question to sort of look at. Okay, look at the last one. How were your performances different from each other? How did you show that you had show that to your imagined audience? More or less the same. No? Yeah. In this, you have to do 3 or 4. Grade 3 has to do 2 or 3. You have to do 3 or 4. Now, in grade 4, I don't insist. If some of your answers are a little longer, then do 3. But if your answers are not long enough, then do 4. Okay? But give meaningful answers. Don't just ramble on for the heck of rambling on. Got it, darlings?
Yes, miss.
You have your maximum time decided. So think. Yes, Vipra Panaya, whoever.
Yeah. So, Miss, like, do we, when we write down our questions on the sheet of paper, do we have to read it, or will someone who's recording through the camera read it?
No, you will read it. Okay,
All
so
right.
but you will not have a full sheet of paper. You'll just take half a sheet. So take an A4 size and just fold it in half and do it. Or I can give you cards when you come here for extra practice. We have, any of the teachers can give it.
Yeah.
To you. You write it on that. Don't write your answers, complete answers on this. Just write down points. Okay? Got it, darling? And you can kind of look at it. But don't write the answer, then read it like that. People have failed if they've done that. So the rest of your performance can be fantastic. But if you have read your answers, they can actually fail you for that. So please be very, very careful. Be prepared with your answers from now. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, Ayana, darling.
Miss, I was not there for the phrase part and I didn't understand it while I was reading it.
Okay. Which Ayana is this? Who's Ayana? Because different teachers have Ayana.
Miss
Shringi?
Shringi.
Okay, darling. Ayana, I'll be taking your extra practice this week, so I'll go through it with you at that time. Also, Ayana, I couldn't open your performances. Ayana has done something which is very, very important. I asked all my students to do it, was to record your performances and send it. So thanks, Ayana. But Ayana, could you resend it, darling? Because I couldn't open it.
Yes, Miss, I'll resend it.
Thank you. Yes, Ria.
So now I want to ask,
Mhm.
what's the question? We are going to be, all our pieces, we're going to be standing and giving them, we're going to be moving and,
Right.
you know. So
For the drama
question-
pieces, they're moving. For prose and poem, they're standing more or less in one place.
Okay.
For the question, then for the sight reading, you pick up the sight reading sheet and you do the sight reading. Okay, you'll sort of put it on the side of stage at the edge of the room, you know, sort of, and go and pick that up, do the sight reading, put it down. Then you can get a chair and get the sheet and you can sit and do the question answers if you want. All right.
I just wanted to ask, it's going to be fine if, you know, the piece of paper where we write our points is seen to the examiner.
Yes, because that's all right. I mean, it's not that they don't expect you, because you'll read the question. You don't have, you're not expected to rectify all the questions.
No,
but
so
you need
for
to be able to
example-
talk about the answers.
Yeah. So for example, if I'm answering a question and I look down and I read a point and then I go with it. So
Yeah,
not
that's
gonna be
fine. That's
something
absolutely
wrong.
fine. So you sort of explain. So in my poem, I use suspensory pose over here. But as I was saying in my prose piece, there were more dramatic poses that were there, emotional poses. So I looked down quickly and I came up again. That's completely all right. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody? Anything else? No? Okay. So grade 4, thank you very much. Please, everybody, please do really well, okay? Because then we can show all your things on Instagram if we have the recordings, okay? Good recordings we can actually put up. Got it? You can put it up on your own also. You are welcome to do that. But we'd like to put it up from class, okay? Namaste and thank you, grade 4.
Namaste and thank you, Miss.
Namaste and thank you, darling. See you soon. Good job.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Miss.
darlings. Bye, Rian. How are you, darling? Mr. Chedda. Okay, now we'll go on to grade 5. So grade 5, you need to use a bulk of the technicals from grade 3 and 4. You do, Rian, you're doing grade 4, na? Rian Chedda? Ami?
Yes.
Rian is grade 4 or 5? 3, 4. Okay, so Rian, yours is done if you want to leave, okay? But if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay, not a problem. Now, in grade 5, you've got to use pause, phrase, emphasis, space. They still become your ground foundation technicals. In addition to that, you add other aspects of your vocal performances. Okay, so now I'm going to share screen and show that to you. So let's look at the grade 5 set of questions. Again, you've got a total of 4 minutes. You can answer 3 or 4 questions. So some answers may be 1 minute, some may be 110, some may be 90 seconds. 50 seconds. But overall, they should be 4 minutes, should not go beyond 4 minutes. You can choose 3 or 4 questions to answer. Now, grade 5. This is grade 5, no? Yeah. Grade 5. It's important to understand that you are doing drama and yours is a notch higher than the grade 4 drama. Grade 4 drama, kids are just introduced to it. Some of the drama pieces are really small. They just want to be able to see that they're able to move and get into character. You know, it's a very basic thing. But in grade 5, your understanding of the other characters, your placements, your staging, all that becomes very, very important. So discussing that and giving more details of that in your answers makes more sense. So my suggestion at grade 5 is to answer 3 questions, but answer 3 questions well. Give good, succinct, but detailed points. Don't add in rubbish, but add in things which are important. Please, in grade 5, bring in your backgrounds. Understand, grade 5 drama, you are doing Oscar Wilde and George Bernard Shaw, stalwarts of English theatre. You need to know them. You need to be able to bring that referencing in. So you will say, in my performance, given the fact that George Bernard Shaw had the sense of humor, and he you know, but in St. John, because he was also such a strong feminist and he created this character, he made Joan, you know, a person with a tremendous heart. And he shows there that a woman can be strong and yet have a strong heart. So in my piece, she talks about the love of people and the things. So I showed that with a softness of voice, which is strength in my body, that I will dare and dare and dare until I die. And I go out to the common people now and let the love in their eyes comfort me for the hate in yours. So you have the love that you show and the strength. Okay, I'm giving you examples of how you actually talk about your entire performance using the technicals. Okay. So besides pause, phrase, emphasis, space, you will also use this entire, and I am not joking, you will use this entire list of points to analyze all 3 of your performances. So literally take your poem. First of all, how did you relax before your performance? What kind of breathing are you using? A little bit of that. What kind of expressions are you using? Where did you have to correct and how did you improve on your pronunciations? Those of you who are doing Nissim Ezekiel in grade 5, we particularly give it in grade 5 because you can then answer all these questions using these things. Okay? So you, the point that when you sort of use your pronunciation and you don't use incorrect pronunciation, you just change the accent so you can talk about that we keep more or less a few maybe over here were just to show it, but you must show that you actually know how to pronounce. Otherwise you say that anyway this person doesn't know how to pronounce things correctly. So make sure your pronunciation is absolutely perfect. Now, if you look at expressions over here, I've put caricaturing should be used only in Mr. Bean-like characters, which are your poems like Soap, you know, Pushpa T.S., things like that. So you caricaturize over there. That's where you exaggerate your expressions, your whole way of talking. Some people are not having manners. This I am always observing. हाँ जरा extra करीने करवानु छे हाँ. अच्छा नहीं तो मजा नत आवती आमा. So you're actually doing it for that purpose, and then you switch back to your normal English, your correct English very easily. And in your answers, show them that you take the opportunity. Otherwise, they won't understand why you decided to do it like this. Say Nissim Ezekiel was drawing a caricature in his poems about the middle class Indian, you know, woman or man, the professor, this pompous old professor who's like, once I taught you geography, huh? You remember, no? You've forgotten your teacher? How can that be? Okay? So you got to do it carefully. Now, besides that, again, look at the volume. Joan may be much louder than, say, the poem Silence. Now, if you're doing a piece of Joan that one of my students like Danya is doing, Dear Jack, that Joan piece is not loud, but there are certain parts of it that she goes loud. So I repeat, overall, What is the difference in volume in drama, prose, poem? But then within the piece, how are you changing your volume? Because you won't keep it static. All of Joan won't be loud. All of, what do you say, silence won't be soft. All of Anne Frank won't be soft. There'll be a little bit of variation, but overall, they'll have a general, level they're at. So look at the volume. Look at the pause, phrase, emphasis, space. Your inflection, the upward and downward movement of your voice. I'm going to talk about inflection and intonation a little bit more after this. The pitch, where is your voice? The power you put in, the force you're putting in at certain places, in certain characters. Okay? Again, they want power to speak. So then give the power, put the force in. We refugees. What's the first line? I can't remember in the poem, but something about, I come from a beautiful place. So there's a lot of intensity there. I come from a beautiful place where they hate me for my song. So there's intensity. So I come from a beautiful place where they hate me for my song. You don't do that. So there's a difference between power and intensity.
They hate my shade of skin.
Yeah. So good. So just make sure that you have that variation that comes in power and intensity, and you show it and you talk about it in your answers. Resonance is your overall quality of voice. Now, for instance, again, Joan will be more, strong. She may not actually worry so much about the phonogenic, like you're photogenic, you have phonogenic voice. So when you're recording it, it may not always sound very good. That's fine. But if you are doing sort of a piece like one of the softer, We Are Seven by William Wordsworth, any of the Wordsworth poems, there's a beauty of voice that needs to be there. Okay? Rabindranath Tagore, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. You want that beauty of voice. So the change in the quality of your voice is your resonance. So be aware of that. The tones, we do that for our exercises. The deep tone, middle tone, high tone, depending on what the idea is, the characters are. Cecily will have a slightly higher tone. I mean, she'll be like, oh, but Jack and Ernest, I don't remember now who she loves, but she does love one of them. And she goes after them. Oh, she loves Algernon. Sorry, darling. Okay. And then we've got dear Gwendolyn, who's such a good little girl, or thinks she is, but has quite an attitude. And she'd also be slightly higher. So the tones would change depending on your characters. Okay. Again, Jack and the Beanstalk, fee, fi, fo, fum, deep voice. So be aware of that. Make sure you've got good clarity throughout it all, because there's a tendency when we talk deep to do that. I'm talking deeply and I don't understand anything. And you hurt your throat when you do that. So bring it from down. Have the clarity from your diaphragm. Okay, breathe from your diaphragm, have the clarity with your consonant and vowel sounds. Very, very important. How are you doing your setting? Grade 5. One of my students has sent me, I don't know if I'll be able to show it. Let me see. Arushi. Here. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see? She's marked numbers on this. Okay. And then she goes to this. And she's marked the movements on the stage using those numbers. So where is she moving when? She's done her blocking. Do that. Set your stage, draw it. Chair over here, table over here, the justice of the peace over here, the king over here, the clown over here. So draw it on a paper, put audience over here. This is our classroom. If you imagine wing 1, wing 2, wing 3, wing 4, you're starting here, you go back and you perform. So actually sort of draw the stage so that you understand the movement and can explain it. Grade 5 and 6, this is very, very important for both of you. Movement, your body language, your overall body language given your character must be understood, analyzed, practiced over and over and over again. In this, please think of the costume you're wearing. If you are Cecily and Gwendolyn, you're going to be wearing slight heels. Start practicing moving in those heels from today. If Joan is going to be in sneakers, from today. If she's going to be barefoot, from today. One of my teachers was practicing, Mayor was practicing, and she noticed when she was doing it barefoot, there was a sound coming from her foot. So we needed to work around that. So it's very important to do all that. Body language includes the fact that you're wearing a certain type of costume. Be aware of the props. Are you going to pretend you have a fan? Again, Gwendolyn, when she's looking at Cecily in one of the pieces and she picks up the little glasses, please remember there were monocles or those sort of theater glasses that they had in those days. So she picks it up, she opens it. Miming is a big, 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 big part of drama. Make sure you use the skills you learned with miming in drama. Okay? If you don't understand the mood, the genre, things like that, you are not going to be able to perform anything. So first, identify what type of piece are you doing. This actually should be done first. Your character analysis, your mood, what is she feeling at that time? What is she going to feel in the future so that you can start sort of like setting the stage for that. Okay? And ease with distinct language, whether it's Mr. Mesical's language, whether it's George Bernard Shaw's older English or Oscar Wilde's, late Victorian English. You've got to be comfortable with that language, which means read your plays, darlings. It'll help you a lot. Even if you don't understand it all, every word doesn't have to be understood. This is not a literature class, but you do need to be able to go through and get the whole idea and be comfortable with the language that you're using. So please read your plays. Grade 6, you're doing Indian theater. Please read those plays because by now you have become so anglicized. So we're going back again to becoming a little Indianized and understanding the Indian physiology that goes into and identify this is more Indian. Okay, so think and look at that. And this get it and do it. I am not joking. At least 40 to 50 times all the pieces need to have been performed before you record it. Okay. Grade 5, I'll quickly go on to clear all drawings. I'll quickly go on to understanding intonation and inflection. Now, inflection, I totally forgot I was doing this. I was like taking my time with the earlier stuff. Inflection is when you take your voice up or you take your voice down. Okay, it doesn't mean deep and high, but the movement of your voice. Okay, so for instance, if I say, come here, down, come here, up, come here, straight down. So depending on how you're saying it, the meaning changes. And that change is what is inflection. Okay? Now you don't need to know this completely in detail, but you do need to understand it to be able to bring out the meaning very, very clearly. So we look at simple rising for prayers. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Or you take, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva. Any prayer, you'll have it going upward. For the Bhavas, Ashem Vahu, Vaistemasti, it goes up. Pleading, please come. It goes up. Don't go, please come. It doesn't come. Then you go, come. Okay? It's please come. Unfinished statements, especially when, and as she was pulling out a handkerchief, bang! So as she was pulling out a handkerchief, your inflection goes up and stays up. If you notice, this is why in suspensory pause, the inflection goes up. Because the statement is not complete and continues into the next line to finish the sentence. So the inflection goes up at the end of the line in a suspensory pause, or any sentences which are unfinished, and questions that can be answered by yes and no. Try it. Is the sky blue? Simple rising, right? Is the sky blue? Yes or no? What color is the sky? Your voice comes down. So the questions that cannot be answered by yes and no, the voice comes down. So that becomes simple falling. Commands are simple falling. Finished statements are simple falling. Okay? So these are the types of inflections that you have. Simple rising, simple falling, compound rising when it goes up and down, or compound falling when it goes down and comes up. That as you're speaking, very often it just comes naturally. You just have to be aware of that rhythm so that we make sure that the meaning stays clear. Otherwise, the meaning will not be clear. Okay? And we very often give emphasis by making the inflection go either up or down on the most important word. So you can now see how your technicals get, interconnected. And of course, there's flat intonation, inflection when it comes to chanting. Not prayers, chanting. Okay? On the other hand, intonation is the movement of voice as if it's singing. So that's the singing tone that you have. Okay? Now, as Indians, we have a very, very singing intonation. Because આપણે ગુજરાતીમાં પણ વાત કરીએ ત્યારે ઉપર નીચે થાય, हिंदी में भी जब हम बात करते हैं तो ऊपर नीचे होता ही है ना थोड़ा बहुत, आणि मराठीमध्ये तो कडक वर खाली, right? So these movements give us that up and down movement in intonation. And that you use your intonation depending on the background of your character. So if your character is British, there's a tendency to be flat. Stiff upper lip and be like, "Milady, whatever you think, I would be glad to do." Flat intonation. If you're an American, "Lady, whatever you would want, I'd be glad to do." Step down. So if you look at Indian intonation, it sort of goes like this. This is Indian intonation. This would be British intonation. And the Americans would have this. And every culture has a slightly different intonation. That's why intonation affects your accent. Accent is not equal to intonation. It's not the same thing. But part of how an accent works is your intonation. But besides intonation, the kind of words you use, the language you use, defines your accent. The pronunciation you use defines your accent, the emphasis you use. Okay? So there are different things that define your accent. One of the things, and a very important thing, is intonation. Okay? This becomes important and something for you to understand when you're looking at all your nissamesical poems and things. Okay? Are you clear on all that? This is what grade 5 needs to do very carefully. You do need to do all your background research. Again, I repeat, authors' lives, your play, analysis of your play, analysis of your character, what the other characters think about your character, how would the character dress, what are the props they would have, what does the scene look like, all that needs to be done. Okay? Got it, darlings? Please hit the ground running. We have no time. I'd wanted everyone ready for the exams by the end of August. I certainly know that my students are not ready. You all know we are actually still setting the drama pieces of some people. So we really, really need to get a move on and do this. Okay? Got it, darlings? Okay. Those of you who are lagging behind a little bit, don't worry. We'll get on with it, but we do need to work hard. Okay? I think that's part of understanding where you are. Okay. Literally, for those who are panicking, I have some students who yesterday chose their third pieces. So it's not that it's not doable, but you'll need to work hard. Okay, that's about it. Okay, grade 5. Any questions? Any questions, grade 5?
Yes, Miss. Miss, I have a question.
Yes, Neil.
Miss, so I have the professor as my poem, and since I'm giving it a very accent which like completely distorts the pronunciation.
Which is your poem, darling?
The professor.
The professor.
Yes.
It doesn't completely distort it, darling. It sounds like that. Because what we do is we move the emphasis more than the actual pronunciation. But there are certain things. So for instance, we see that instead of that. We say A instead of A. So there are certain consonant vowel sounds that we are saying wrong, but very few. On the whole, we do make sure that we keep to the actual, real correct pronunciation.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, should I keep it like how I would normally speak, but more of that accent, or should I completely exaggerate that accent?
Don't exaggerate only the exaggerate. I think it depends on the extent, because if I say completely exaggerated and then you're not understood by the examiner, that's not what we want.
Just to some extent, not
to a certain extent, yes, you should. And you can do the exaggeration more with your gestures. You know, I am Professor Sher. I used to teach you geography. Then you think that you used to be so thin. Now you are a man of weight and consequence. So you're still saying consequence, but you're saying it consequence. You know, like you put it in with that, and with the action, it starts looking a little more sort of, in the caricature and in the character. Got it, darling? Very good question, Eve. Use that in your answers also. Elaborate with that in your answers, okay? Yeah. Anybody else, darlings? Bless you. Okay. So then grade 5, all of you go through it, darlings. My suggestion would be go through the whole thing today. Like just read through your technical sheets today and go through your performances a little bit, because while it's fresh, it will make sense. Otherwise you'll be like, oh, what was this? Was this exactly this? Was it that? So if you could do it like in the next hour or so, that would be the best thing. Okay? So grade 5, all of you can leave. Namaste and thank you. I'm going to take a sip of water, please. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Namaste and thank you, darlings.
Thank you, ma'am.
Where are all my 6th graders? I've taught every one of these at some point. Ishan, since when are you doing grade 6?
Oh no, miss. I was waiting for grade 4. I read on the technical sheet that it was 4, so I was just waiting. Oh, sorry.
No, darling, grade 4 is over. I'll send you the recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, darling. Oh, and he supports Chelsea. Chi. How many of you are United fans here? Nobody? Yeah. Useless.
I am perforce. My whole family is a United fan.
Yeah. Yesterday we were like celebrating with like.
Yeah, it was like it was my family.
Yeah,
part of
anything
the team,
except because when Ronaldo was joining City, oh my God,
there was high grief.
Yeah, real. So, okay. Sanaya, are you happy to have Mr. Ronaldo in your team?
Too happy.
Too happy. You can hear it. Please put that emotion into your performance, darling. That'll be so cool. It came out in your voice right there. That was so good. Okay. Sanaya, the last message was directly aimed at you. That don't worry, you are one of my babies who I haven't done enough work with. So we'll sit down, we'll go through it. We'll arrange a time where we can, you know, just put two, three times in the week, but just put aside time and just practice. Okay. You know, either morning before school, after school, whatever, whenever, but keep it disciplined. You'll find that it's a little easier to do that. Okay. Because I do want you to enjoy it while y'all are doing. Don't just do it. But on the other hand, I don't want you to be that, okay, then I'm not doing it because I had, who is Anishka Takkar's friend? Lavanya Singla. Your friend has dropped out of 6th grade. According to her, it's too much hard work.
Oh, Miss, I did. Oh.
He's an idiot. Because these certificates are useful. Grade 5 doesn't count. Grade 6 onwards starts counting. So you've done all these years of work and now you want to drop. She'll be an idiot. I mean, she can't be any busier than all of you. You are all here. So I just talked to her, darling. I'd be happy to have her.
Convince her, yeah.
I'll take her twice a week. I don't know how many people I'm going to keep taking twice a week. But
yes.
Lavanya, you can help her.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Aisha is coming. Yeah. Okay. Now, darlings, for grade 6, all the technicals up to grade 5, especially all the analysis, you do need to bring in depth and with your understanding of your pieces. Okay. You really, really need to do it with a maturity. The way you think about it, the way you analyze it. I'm going to give again Aisha Pushing so I can remember it right there. She's doing a piece for her LT from Richard II. And Richard, she is doing Richard II. And, you know, very often that piece is done either very angry or it's done very funny. They make him a bit of an idiot. And it's very sad, you know, but that's how they sort of portray it. But Aisha's decided that she wants to do it as a reflective performance. That he's actually thinking and talking and saying his thoughts out loud. And so that's a very, very different way of looking at it. And she's justified why she thinks that that's how it needs to be. You need to do that. I know I've helped most of you and we've all helped you set your pieces, but that doesn't mean you cannot go into depth and sort of try and understand why have we done it like this. Diva, which is yours?
Richard III.
Richard III, Lady Margaret. Sorry, Queen Margaret. And remember when Diva came, you know, Lady Anne was sitting here. So we were talking about that and you know, how the two characters would actually be portrayed so differently. So these are the things I need you to sort of, sorry. Just to remind everyone, this is grade 6 or grade 5 can go. I don't know who's grade 5 here. Yagneshwaran? No, unless it's Kanyaka. I mean, you're welcome to stay and hear things out, but you don't really need the grade 6 technicals. Okay? No. Yeah, sorry, you don't need the grade 6 technicals. I was forgetting it was grade 6. Sorry. So look at all this background, bring it in. The background becomes very, very important for you. Besides that, the next thing you go for is the 3 aspects are breathing, posture, and relaxation. Okay? Breathing is the start of voice production. You cannot speak without breathing, and therefore, and understand, it's very, very simple, but it's very, 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 very important. And that's how you need to study breathing. Okay? Your breathing will differ depending on what your voice production output is. Are you stronger in pieces? Are you going faster? So your breath control will change. Would it change in how fast the breath comes out, how strong the breath comes out? All these things need to be understood, okay? So we're going to look at breathing, we're going to look at relaxation, and we're going to look at posture. So I'm going to start with relaxation. We need to be, you can unmute yourselves if you all want to talk. Do we need to be relaxed before a performance? Yes or no? Please put your cameras on. It's so much easier at the stage with you all to do that.
Miss, you should be relaxed, but not completely, because nervousness helps you do it a little better.
Excellent answer. You need to be relaxed because negative tension will affect your voice like that, because this is where you'll get tense. The first place you get tense is here and your stomach. So your breath will go and your voice will get damaged. Your throat, vocal cords will get damaged. So you need to be relaxed. But if you're completely chilled, man, and I'm doing, don't you dare murder my husband, and I'm like, so cool about it, it ain't gonna work. Plus, a little bit of adrenaline, positive tension, the adrenaline rush, that allows you to put an energy into your performance. Otherwise, your performance will lack that verb that it needs, So you need to put that in. Talk about it. Talk about putting in the adrenaline, the oomph into your performance. Whether it's sad, happy, whatever it is, you need that comes with your energy level. So you need to be, grade 6 key is balance. You need to be balanced. Whether you are balanced in your breathing, whether you're talking about balance in your posture, whether you're talking balance in your relaxation. So again, not so relaxed that you don't know what to do, or you're not so tense that the performance is affected. What are the things you could do to be relaxed, to take out the negative tension?
And simple exercises, just deep breathing.
They all are talk about yoga. They love it. Say, I do pranayama, I do meditation, I visualize. Talk about all that. I'm not mocking, huh? That really does help. Like at the moment, my son is going for a competition and I need to rush after this. But my son is going for a competition. He was, for some reason, is really tense about it. So all he did for the last entire hour, he first started with breathing. He then went into a little bit of visualization and then has gone into meditation. And he's so much better now. So whether it's sport, whether it's performance, but he's still nervous. If he isn't nervous enough, he'll never do that well. So you need to sort of get that, enough of that nervousness, keep a little bit of that anxiety there, but keep it under control. So breathing becomes very important. What else? All our exercises, you need to do that to warm up. Darlings, we've talked about this in class. You need to warm up. You need to get your voice doing. So all our exercises, perfect, that we have, please do it before class. Save time, because in class now we tend not to do the exercises. So do it before you come into class. It takes 2 minutes, but do it so that your voices are warmed up. Okay? Learning your pieces, anxiety rises tenfold if your pieces are not learned and practiced. If you've done that, there's enough confidence that comes in. So learning and practicing becomes very important. Then each one has their own style of being relaxed. Whether you listen to music, whether you walk, whether you talk to friends, whether you just read your own work that you're actually going to do, or whether you read work, my one suggestion would be, some people actually perform before they come in. Now, if it really helps you, go for it. Like I said, it's your own way of relaxation. You need to do that. We have a warm-up room. You can go and use it and do the performances there to get yourself warmed up. But my suggestion is, if you are tense and then you practice your pieces, and then at that stage you forget something which all this time you've not forgotten, you'll get a bigger fear. So for myself personally, what I used to do was I used to read my pieces rather than perform, read it, not just say it. Okay, so that I was focused on what I was doing. I didn't have to worry about forcing myself to think about anything else, but it was within my control. So that used to help me. So each one can do what they want or need. Get worked up, get into character. Darlings, have keywords to get you into your moods. So before you start your poem or your prose piece or your drama piece especially, who is your character? Strong, I'm angry, I want to kill him. Just get that in when you've turned around before the performance. Get yourself into that. Okay, that's your prep work. That's your relaxation work. Okay, yes, Kriya, darling?
Since this exam is online and you don't feel the same kind of nervousness before going into the actual exam, like because you just have to film it at your house, can we talk about how that made us less nervous in one of the questions?
You can. That is so good. That you are very, very comfortable. Just tell you that there's a recording going on. Darling, you've got to be, you don't let your guard down so much. We did find that. Please. Don't let your guard down so much that you need to, what do you say? Don't have sorry, I got distracted a bit. You don't need to be so, comfortable in your space that when you're actually performing, you're overconfident and you don't put in your best. So understand that this is an international exam, that someone across the world is going to be looking at your performance. So push it. Make sure you're doing your best. Make sure you want to do better than the last time. And the only way you can do that is by talking to yourself and going through your own sort of understanding and analysis of your own performances. Okay? Anybody else has a suggestion for this? Because it's very important what Kriya is talking about. Just one sec, sorry. Oh, sorry, darlings.
Miss, like how Kriya said that you're not very nervous because you're very comfortable in your surrounding. What if you have like a little different perspective on that when the examiner was actually there was a little motivation to see the examiner's reaction to your pieces.
Okay.
But there's nobody to monitor them right now, so you don't know how exactly you're doing.
One of the things we could do is maybe we tend to make our setting here a little comfortable so that the kids don't feel so nervous. So maybe we could make it a more formal setting. Like, remember when you last came, we were all chatting and things. I think that got you a little distracted also, if I'm not wrong, Panaya. So yeah. I think what would be important is that we make it more formal while you're going in for this. When it's over, that's a different matter. So being quiet, making sure the exam recording is going on. Are you ready? Have you got your pieces? So maybe we will, as teachers, put that on a little bit. But you will have to tell us how you feel that I need to do that. Because if we do the wrong thing, then we'll get you unnecessarily acerbated, like in the whole thing. You'll be more nervous and, and might actually do worse. So I need to know, and we need to talk about that. Okay, so I think honesty plays a big part in your performance here, in how you actually feel and how you're going about it. Okay, anything else? Right, so this is relaxation. Once you are relaxed, so for in our exercises, we literally go through this. We first shake your hands, shake your shoulders, shake your head, shake your bum, shake every part, like get it all out. Get that breath out. Then shoulders back, look smart. All right? Get yourself completely in position. Position means correct posture. For the correct posture, you stand as if you're standing against an imaginary wall. Okay? Head, shoulders, bums, heels, all against a straight line. Shoulders back, firm, but relaxed. Don't go this. You don't want to add tension here. relax. But I don't want it like this. Okay, so pull it out. You should actually feel it at the back over here, at this point, you know, that sort of pulling together, getting yourself, and let the shoulders come outwards this way. So it makes sense when you're sort of, you know, you've got the correct upper body, you know, control. Once you've got that, neck straight, chin parallel to the ground like this. Head, so the head is straight. You're not doing, a lot of people perform, and then the code came and you don't want to do that. I don't want that. Straight. Body straight, hands, arms by your sides, relaxed. Not at the back or in the front. No one wants you to go susu potty. Hands right at by your side, relaxed. Now, some people feel nervous and they say, Miss, we fidget. Can I put it at the back? No, it's very important. Learn not to fidget. Okay, practice it so that you don't fidget, so that that bit of nervousness goes away, so that energy is then used in your performance. Okay, so try and avoid doing that to hide your nervousness, because also then it's very clear to the examiner, oh, she must be nervous, that's why her hands are at the back. So even if you're not nervous now, they get that. Because the first thing an audience looks for is the confidence of a performer. Okay? Then your feet need to be shoulder length apart. Straight. Not out, not in, straight. Especially this part of the foot. So I'm going to move my laptop a little bit, bring it down and show it to you. If you look over here, is it coming in? Yeah. So your feet slightly apart, length of your shoulders. You can see my hands are sort of also over here. Okay. Little sort of relaxed over here like that. Feet apart like this. You don't want it to be like this, and you certainly don't want, a lot of people stand like this. Don't do that. This and this, as if it's a straight line, when you put it apart, it looks like it's slightly outward because that's how the shape, the foot is shaped. But you keep it like that. Don't stand like that. Like, you know, I'm going to walk. You don't want that happening. So this is how you'd be. Hands relaxed. Just put the camera up, Ellie. Body straight. Arms by your sides. Okay, full on. And then the rest of you standing straight like that. Have you got it, darling? Absolutely straight. If you're sitting for a performance, the same thing applies. Back straight. You know, if this is the chair, back straight, legs straight, feet touching the ground. Okay? Feet touching the ground, very important. Don't have it dangling in the air. Now, if you're using a chair for your performance and your feet do then sort of come to the edge a little bit, and you can, you know, rest at least one leg on the ground. Depending on what characters you all are playing, your legs will be crossed, not crossed. Modern Indian drama, we don't have to worry too much about that because you can sit almost in a very, you know, natural way. So let that happen. Okay. So that's the correct posture. So be relaxed, get into the correct posture, and then breathe. That's why we do our breathing exercises. Now, how do you breathe? Can anybody explain breathing quickly to me? Nobody's done breathing in school? What are the 2 parts of breathing, or 3 parts?
Inhale and exhale.
Inhale and exhale, that's right. So you've got inhalation, which is the taking in of breath, hold the breath, and then you exhale. Okay? When we do our exercises, I put my hands upon my ribs and breathe as if I've run a race. What are we doing? We're clearing our oral and nasal passages so that the voice production and breathing can work synchronously, can work well without it being a problem. I have now been speaking for 2 hours non-stop. The only way I can do that, and as if you look at this, is my body is straight, my diaphragm and everything. So I'm allowing myself to breathe comfortably while I'm speaking. Otherwise, I would be in real trouble because I'd be straining my voice. So if you don't have the correct breath, forget the rest of voice production. the first thing that needs to be done correctly is have good breath control. Okay, now I'm going to share screen. Right. This was intonation, inflection, right? Before we go to this, I'll go through these question answers at the end of breathing. These are all the notes I've sent for breathing. Everything that I'll be talking about will be mentioned here. It doesn't all make sense. Just read it 2 or 3 times. If you do that, you'll automatically be able to analyze it and perform it. May I have a cup of tea also, please? Also, so let me go to the diagrams at the bottom. I've put these, slideshow from current slide here. So this is your, if you look at the, where did my mouse go? Oh, it's here. Sorry. If you look at, this is your breathing for voice apparatus. All right, you've got your mouth, your nose, all this, your throat, your larynx region. This entire area is used for the quality of your voice, okay? That's your oral and nasal passages and your larynx and pharynx region. Got it? Then you've got the windpipe and the lungs, which is the actual breathing, and your diaphragm. Without your diaphragm, can you all feel your diaphragm muscles? It's a really strong muscle. And when I say I put my hands upon my ribs, I actually mean sort of close enough to your diaphragm. Okay, this is where you're supposed to be putting your hands. Okay, now, if we go to, if we go to the next slide, this slide, sorry. And look at the rib cage over here. Okay, if you look at this, this is around your lungs. You've got 12 pairs of ribs. The first 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're all attached to your sternum. This main bone in the front that kind of also protects your heart. Okay, this bone is the sternum. You don't need to know it biologically, but you need to understand it. So I'm just giving you the idea. All right, so these 7 are attached to the sternum. The others are then attached. So 6th and 7th actually are also attached slightly to each other. Then you've got the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th, all attached to one another. Okay, they don't attach directly to the sternum. They're attached to one another. And then the last few, if you look, this one and this one. So you see the end over here, here and here. These are floating ribs. Over here is where your diaphragm lies. So it needs the space. So these floating ribs, they're more or less incomplete ribs. All right. So this is your rib cage. Now, between the rib cage, you've got muscles here. So you've got the diaphragm and you've got these muscles over here. These muscles are called intercostal muscles. Okay, look at this. It's the intercostal space. So these muscles are called the intercostal muscles. Okay, so the muscles between the ribs, and then you've got the diaphragm. These are the main muscles that you use to breathe. Therefore, the breathing that you do for voice production is intercostal diaphragmatic breathing. I repeat, the correct breathing you need for voice, and bring this out in your technical talk. Every single person must, in the 6th grade, somewhere mention relaxation, posture, but most important, intercostal diaphragmatic breathing. Now, the breathing that's wrong is clavicular breathing. If you use your shoulder blades, if you use this part, the muscles over here, and you go, it's not going to work, because look, the capacity over here is very little in the lungs. The capacity is so much more over here. Plus, it creates tension around your voice box. So clavicular breathing is the worst form of breathing that you can have for voice production. So you can talk about that when I was young, there was a tendency for me to go, and then I said, and so she came. You remember, if you watch little children, they perform like this. That is wrong. Clavicular breathing is wrong. The other breathing that we use for our normal life is diaphragmatic and abdominal breathing. Abdominal breathing means we use the muscles in our abdominal area, which is, the area around our stomach and liver and kidneys and things like that. For voice production, we sort of avoid that. So for instance, when you see a person sleeping, you feel that the stomach is moving. One, it's the diaphragm that's actually moving, and the muscles in the abdominal region, because the diaphragm separates the thoracic cavity, which is where your lungs are, and the abdominal cavity, where the rest of your organs are. So the abdominal cavity just moves in sympathy with your diaphragm. It's not actually, really using those muscles for breathing, but they do move a little bit, okay, when you're normally breathing. But for voice, you do not use. So you don't go and try and do this. Don't make your stomach hurt. Then you're doing something wrong. Then you're using, and you'll damage your organs. Some of the great opera singers did that earlier. And they used to damage their kidneys, and they used to damage their stomachs and the liver. Because a lot of pressure came on those organs because they were using the abdominal cavity. So you've got to be very careful. So the right type of breathing is intercostal diaphragmatic breathing. So what happens in intercostal diaphragmatic breathing? You take in the air, and I'm talking about now breathing for voice, okay? You can all research breathing on a regular basis. Excuse me, sorry. You can all research your own breathing, because I'm sure you're doing the respiratory system in school. But in conjunction with breathing for life, or what you call breathing for repose, you've got the breath that goes in when you're doing breathing for voice. It goes straight down into the lungs, fills the lungs. So what happens? To do that, the diaphragm contracts, and the intercostal muscles, these muscles and the diaphragm, they all contract. So when it contracts, it becomes tight. So the muscle becomes tight, okay? And the muscles between the rib cage become tight. So they pull the rib cage out. The minute that happens, more space is created. The minute more space is created, the air rushes straight into your body. Then the diaphragm relaxes, and the intercostal muscles relax, and the rib cage collapses. The diaphragm becomes an umbrella shape again. Okay, it's a dome-shaped muscle when it's relaxed. And so it pushes, the space becomes less. So the air is then pushed out. Okay, so from here, the air is pushed out. Have you all got it? Once, I'm going to change the color, I think here. Yeah. When the air is pushed out, it passes, if you look at this, through the larynx. Over here is your voice box. What is the voice box? It's like a little sort of container, holder, skeleton kind of thing, on which there is a little cartilage on top. The cartilage looks like, if you suppose you stretch a balloon and then you put little scratches in it, it gets those little tears. So you sort of do that, and that's what's there. So when the breath comes out, it vibrates the larynx. Okay? When you want to speak, when you don't want to speak, it doesn't do it automatically. It's for voice production that the larynx, the breath goes out and it shakes the larynx. And a sound is produced. Okay? So that sound, that's the beginning of speaking. The sound is produced. This sound goes up and it hits the pharynx and the oral and nasal cavities. Okay? So it hits all this region. Now, depending on where it hits, the kind of voice you want to produce. The kind of voice you want to produce. The kind of voice you want to produce. Put it in different places. You'll see the kind of sound you produce is different. And the words are formed by using the articulating organs. And I can't go back. Mouse. How do I go back? This is the head. No, here's the perfect. Now I want to be here. Anyway. So these are your articulating organs if you look over here. Okay? The mouth, the lips, the teeth, the alveolar ridge, the tongue, the entire oral and nasal cavities, and the voice box. Okay? This is your entire articulating organ. So per, burma, oo, o, all your consonant and vowel sounds are produced in your by your articulating organs. So the quality of sound, the resonance, is created over here overall in the resonating chambers, the oral and nasal cavities predominantly, and a little bit of your larynx area. Okay? And the pharynx area, a little bit of the larynx pharynx area, and the oral and nasal cavities. The quality of sound is produced. The actual words are produced by your articulating organ. So if you look at a guitar, okay, you have a little pluck. The pluck is the breath. So the breath comes out, it's the pluck. It plucks the strings. Those are your strings in the voice box. The sound is produced and then it goes into that big wooden chamber. That is your oral, this resonating chamber. Okay? And the kind of sound, depending on where it hits. So each of us is born with what we are born with. So we can't change it. I mean, Lata Mangeshkar, Asha Bhose, Mohammad Rafi, I don't know, all the great singers, Elvis Presley and all have absolutely amazing resonating chambers. Amitabh Bachchan has an amazing resonating chamber. He's born with it. But you can make the best of what you've got. Some of you have, I've heard your voices, amazing sounds. Now, a great mimic will learn to use resonation, phonation, or phonation, which is also articulation. Okay? So they learn how to use this well to create all the different sounds that they're doing. That kind of flexibility and use of and having that large register of voice of your resonance is amazing. It's great if you can have it. But at least try, getting the best you can. And the only way you can do this is by experimenting and then practicing. So, do I want to sound like this? Do I want to sound like this? Do I want to sound like this? Try it. Experiment with your characters. So for instance, Naling, when you're doing Ramnik Darais, you can be like, do you want to be like, Manisha? Do you want to be like that? Huh? Then you can do that. Or do you want to be Manisha? Do you want to be like that? How do you perceive Ramnik to be? Okay? Don't just be yourself. Show me the variation. I need to see all of you doing. You can copy me. But this thing that comes from the experimentation and practicing and try to find out what you'd like to come back and tell me. I love it when my students come and tell me, Miss, I don't think I want to do it like this. I want to do it like that. Great. You're thinking, you're working. It doesn't mean what I told you is wrong. It just means that there's a different way and it suits you better. It suits your performance better. Please make sure this is the instrument that's performing. I don't come in your place and perform. So be aware of your entire instrument. Okay? So if you go back and look at the notes, all this is explained over here. All these diagrams and all are over here. Just read through it, you'll get a good idea. So for instance, like I was showing you, you know what it is. The breath is the exciter, the little pluck, okay? And the vibrator. The vocal folds are your vibrator. That's what actually produces the sound. Then the general resonance is your nose, mouth, neck region, okay? And then the particular resonance quality that's created. Got it, darlings? Okay? Sorry. Bring it down. What did I do? Okay. So it's all explained in all this that I've sent it to all of you already. Please go through it and see, actually use it in your performances and then talk about, oh, I have to go about the questions. And then talk about it in your questions, okay? So if you look, the grade 6 task, the questions, which of the performed pieces and demonstrations do you find the most challenging and why? Your questions have changed in grade 6, okay? Talk about the background in this, talk about all your vocal skills that you use of breath, getting into the body language of your performances, whether it's prose and poetry also. You know, how did you change your stance? Talk about that. How did you use your voice and or body to show the contrasting styles in your performance? So first you'll have to define the different styles and then how you did it and performed it differently. Be careful if you're doing this question and the first and second, you might want to choose different pieces to answer that, okay? Choose one of your extracts. How did it fit into the overall story, plot arc of the piece? Again, in reference, so for instance, if you're doing your drama piece, this is my character. At this point of time, she feels like that, but in the future, you know, Lady Anne falls in love with Richard. In this piece, she hates him. So she's got to be very passionate, but I've got to sort of bring in that feeling that she's actually going to change her mind because she's so obsessed with Richard also. And with power, her obsession with power needs to come in the piece. Okay? So these are the things so you need to understand in the whole. So put it in place. Put it in, this is reference to context, simply what you do in school. In the whole story, where did this fit in and how does what is the character over here? How does she change in the future? What was she like in the past? In your own piece, has there been a change? What is the change? And then talk about how you performed it. Bring it all back to your performances, okay? How did you decide on your staging of one of your performed pieces? Some of you are sitting for poetry. Talk about why you sat for poetry. What gestures have you used? What facial expressions are you using? It doesn't have to be drama. But to be honest, the fourth piece works best with drama because you can have the stage setting, the other characters, the props, the costume, everything can come into this. And as teachers, just to bring to your mind, you can sort of, you know, bring in a few elements, talk to them about health and safety here. Just a little bit because it'll sort of, you know, bring in that aspect, which is not supposed to be in this grade, but we can talk about it a bit. What new skills have you learned in your preparation? Darlings, really look at the difference in you as a performer. How did researching the background help you? How did doing it 10 times help you? How did now understanding the technicalities of the performance help you? Bring all that into your answers. Talk about the ways in which you take responsibility for a safe and effective, safety is here. Sorry, safe and effective performance. I'll send you the health and safety page that we've got. But in this, you talk really about voice safety, that we do our warm-ups, that we, take care of it. We regularly do sight reading to keep our voices going. Even when we are not performing, we do facial expressions to use our facial muscles. Being safe, like for instance, in Chitra, one of my students used a sword. So she took the sword and she goes around and she points it. She had to be very careful because we were using a real sword. She literally was using this. So we had a whole 1 hour session of her. Can you imagine if her hand went here? She'd cut herself. We had to make sure that all this was blunted. But it's an old sword, so it's difficult. So we had to make sure she knew that she was using this first, holding it here, and then pulling this out. It's already got rusted again. And then she went around and she did that. Okay? I mean, can you imagine if she poked herself anywhere with this? So the safety of using all this. So whatever you're using, whatever props, your shoes, not slipping on the floor, using little rubber paddings to make sure that you don't slip with the leather. All these things, think about all that. Okay, think about your performance in minute details and pull all this out for the question answers. Okay? Same, you have to choose 4. So decide which 4 you want to choose and start answering these questions from today. By the time you come to class this week, I want a rough set of points and an answer that you can actually verbally give. This is what we'll be doing in class this week. Now onwards, and we'll be having extra practice for your pieces. We will be doing a lot of your background work for your the question answers and the sight reading. I'm going to send up. I didn't send it till today because I didn't want to get confused with too many messages going. But today I will send all the updated unseen sight reading pieces we've got. So you can start practicing those because it'll be similar to that. So your level of sight reading will be that and the 6 words. I'll send that also. So you can all start doing it. Okay? Guys, we've given you everything now.
Sorry to interrupt. I have a question. How long is your story supposed to be for the 6 words?
I think 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay.
Yeah. We send you your syllabuses. Look and read your syllabus, the 1 page. Okay? Really do that. We'll send you maybe a little bit more from the back of the syllabus so that you'll have an idea on what they're looking for in performances. You've got to have an understanding yourselves now, darling. You've got to read your syllabus. It becomes very important. Yeah, about I would go 2.5, 3 minutes, darling, for an interesting story. Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Miss.
Yes, Diva.
All the technicals that you discussed, especially for grade 6, have you given it to your students? Because I don't have the...
It's in the group ahead, earlier in the group, but I'll send it back to you.
Okay.
Okay, just send me a reminder. So while I'm on, because I'm going to the race course right now. So while I'm in the taxi, I'll send it to you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so just send me a reminder. I'll forward it to you. Okay, but we put it on our group also. But in case it's a headache looking for it. Didn't I send it today? Yes. But you're in the group 7th grade group. That's why. Yeah, yeah. So I'll send it to you and Rida.
To me as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's you and Rida. I'll send it to both of you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I forgot to do that. Yeah, because I keep forgetting that part. Okay. But yeah, the technicals are there because grade 7 has to also automatically do all this. Okay. All right. Does all this make some kind of sense to all of you? You know, when we've done the exercises and things, we talk about this quite often. We just hope that something has sort of, stayed with all of you. So next week when we meet, I think we'll do the exercises once through. So you all can all remember and just do that properly also. Teachers just do the exercises even with the seniors so that they remember. Quick run through with the exercises, okay? And say this is breathing, this is consonant sounds, vowel sounds, notes, resonance, the 3 tones, things like that. All right. Anything else? Message me if you all have anything. I'm going to rush and shut down because my son's competition will start. So I want to sort of leave soon. So, okay. Okay, darlings. Take care. Namaste and thank you.
Namaste and thank you.
Namaste
Yours
and
all
thank
okay?
you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, darling.